We all know that we should forgive, right? But how do you actually do it? I mean, when someone has really hurt you, the idea of just letting it go can feel, well, impossible. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the practical steps to move from that feeling of resentment to a real sense of release.
But before we even get into the how, let's tackle a really important why. Let's ask ourselves, what's the real cost of holding on to that anger? What's the actual weight of that grudge that you might be carrying around?
You know, this quote really gets right to the heart of it. When we hold on to resentment, the person we end up hurting the most, it's not the one who wronged us, it's ourselves. That anger literally becomes a cage that we build around our own lives, our own potential.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to unpack the real weight of carrying a grudge. Then, we'll dive into a two-part process, starting with the essential internal work of reflection and then moving to the practical steps of actually communicating your feelings. And finally, we'll talk about the incredible freedom that's waiting on the other side of all this.
Okay, let's start with that emotional burden. Holding a grudge? It's like carrying a heavy rock in your backpack that you never ever get to put down. It starts to affect everything, a lot of times in ways we don't even realize.
What's so powerful here is this idea of resentment as a literal obstacle. It's like this thorny wall that just keeps you from moving forward. And this is especially true when you're trying to build new relationships or you're navigating all these complex expectations in life. This emotional weight doesn't just feel bad. It actively stifles your growth and keeps you chained to the past.
All right, so how do we even begin to put that weight down? Well, the first big step in this whole process is all internal. It has nothing to do with confronting anyone else, not yet. It's all about looking inward. This is the foundation for everything else that's going to follow.
And this right here is a really crucial point. Forgiveness is, at its core, a profound act of self-compassion. Seriously, it's not about letting someone else off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of that old grievance. It's about choosing your own peace over your own pain.
We can break this internal process down into 3 key actions. Step 1 is simple. Acknowledge the hurt. You can't heal a wound you're pretending doesn't exist. Step 2, try to understand your reluctance. Ask yourself, what am I actually getting out of holding on to this? Because sometimes that anger can feel protective, like a shield. And then, step 3, you have to make a conscious choice. This is the moment where you decide, for yourself, that your peace is way more important than your pain.
So once you've done that really important internal work, the second major step is all about turning that reflection into action. And this is where we get into communication. I know this can be the most intimidating part of the entire journey, but it's also where some really profound healing can start to happen.
Voicing your feelings, yeah, it can feel incredibly vulnerable, but it's also an incredibly empowering thing to do. By sharing how you feel, you stop being a passive victim of a situation. Instead, you're taking control of your own story, and you're inviting the other person to actually understand your perspective.
And this just illustrates so perfectly how to do it in a way that works. Just notice the shift. You made me feel immediately puts the other person on the defensive. But saying, I felt hurt when? That's an undeniable statement about your own experience. It's constructive, not accusatory, and it really opens the door for a real conversation.
Now, to make that conversation actually work, there are a few essentials that can make all the difference. Try to prepare your thoughts beforehand so you can be clear and honest instead of just getting overwhelmed by emotion. But also be ready to really listen. Remember, the goal isn't to win an argument, it's to create a safe space where you can both understand each other. That's how you actually move forward.
So after all of that hard work, the deep reflection, the tough communication, what's the result? Well, we finally get to the ultimate payoff, this profound feeling of freedom that comes from truly, finally, letting go. So what is the single number one most important benefit of forgiveness? It's not necessarily making up with the other person. It's not even about getting an apology, believe it or not. The biggest prize is something much, much more personal. This right here, this is the key takeaway of this entire thing. Forgiveness is a radical act of self-care. It's a powerful step you take for your own emotional resilience. You are not doing it for them, you are doing it to liberate yourself.
And this final quote just sums it all up perfectly. Forgiveness isn't about rewriting the past. You can't do that. It's about reclaiming your future. It's about making the choice to stop letting a past hurt dictate your present happiness.
And so, we end with a question for you. After hearing these steps, after really thinking about the true cost of holding on, what heavy weight,
What burden can you choose to set down, starting today?